Hey yo, this is Dash. Get ready.
Alright, so I am in Vanna today, and as you can see in here, started up with no problem, but I have to run a little errand, and I'm going directly across the street pretty much. So, and where I'm going is actually, when I first got Vanna, and I introduced you guys to Vanna, and I did that whole video like, I did a thing. Welcome to 6-liter E250 to the fleet. This is where I'm going, to the parking lot of this church that's across the street from my house. So hopefully you can hear me well enough, and I'm getting ready to pull into the parking lot here because they're actually doing a drive-through food pantry. Yeah, so the reason I'm interested in going to the food pantry today actually is because they're going to be giving away a box of produce. So I'm like, I'm right here, so I figured I would just come over here for a few minutes, get the box, and I talk to you guys while I'm sitting in line. So in a nutshell, Vanna has been treating me well. I have on Vanna currently 163,285.2 miles. Actually, I believe Vanna might be due for an oil change. I can't remember the last time I did it. This is by no means a tutorial on how to get it done. This is just me documenting that I did it. So let's go check the mileage. All right, so we're at 156. So 156,731 miles. I think it was about 5,000 miles ago. I kind of have to sync up the oil change schedule routine with like an odd, or well, an even 5,000 or 10,000 mile mark. So other than that, I still have the issue where I need to change the vacuum pump because of with the fact that I need to change the vacuum pump, the power brakes are not working the way that I need them to. Now, recently, as far as things I've done on Vanna, I did have to change the driver's side brake caliper. I did that, and I believe I did the pads as well when I did that brake caliper. Now, when I did that brake caliper, that was quite some time ago, and then one of the other things I had to do was I ended up having to do an alternator. I was having issues where the battery wasn't charging, and because the battery wasn't charging, I would have to jump Vanna in order to get her started. But once I got her jumped, usually, as long as I didn't have a whole bunch of accessories running at the same time, I actually have a scan gauge hooked up, and with the scan gauge, I was able to see the voltage. So if I was running, like doing a long run, I could see when the voltage was dropping low, and when it would drop low, I would just pretty much like lay into it to get the revs up, and then the alternator would half charge. So when it wasn't working properly, she was charging at maybe 12 and a half volts. But right now, I'm changing the scan gauge now. Right now, you see she's at 14 and some change at idle, and that's exactly what we want. Other than that, aside from me having to change the alternator, which was a absolute bear, I'll actually insert a video from when I got the alternator fixed, just for perspective on how much of a bear that was to change. But I did it. And that's pretty much been it. I've been using Vanna here and there to run errands and do things like this. I am going ahead and driving Vanna today just to drive her. I typically drive the van 2, maybe 3 times a week. I'll load up, and actually I had some work done to the house where I had to get some plywood. So here's some pictures of Vanna with all the plywood loaded up. That was an entire pallet of plywood, and you go ahead and do the math, but it was 5 30-seconds or half-inch plywood, and I found out that each half-inch sheet of plywood weighs 40 pounds, and there were 73 sheets of plywood in the back of Vanna. So yeah, but as far as like running right and doing any and everything else, running just fine. You guys hear what she sounds like, no issues whatsoever. Like I said again, aside from the brakes that I have been having issues with, but other than that, everything is cool. So consider this your update video. There's been a few of you guys who have been asking me about updates on Vanna, so here it is.
And what are you gonna say?
Make sure you subscribe.
Okay.
Give a thumbs up.
All right, so let's try this again. It's subscribe.
Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give a thumbs up if you like. Bye.
Alright, so that was my daughter. She always wants to help whenever she catches me filming the video. So just like she said, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. If you like what you saw, if you learned something, please leave me a thumbs up down below. And leave a comment, if you have any other questions. And I'll see you next time.